All right, once again, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the demo session on Azure Data Engineering using ADF and ADP. So, uh, I know this is a morning, Sunday morning, it's a early time for everyone, but yeah, I will keep this session as sharp and crispy so that we can stick to the agenda. So with that, let me quickly share my screen and we can get started. You can ask me any questions in between if you have. You can stop me or ping in the chat group. We will try to answer those questions during the session. So hope everyone can see my screen and my screen is visible and I'm audible to everyone. So, friends, we are living in a information age where the information is one of the exciting times of information age where the artificial intelligence is taking at the entire world, right? So you would have had a lot of buzz around the artificial intelligence in the recent parts, and some of the developments using generative AI and the chat GPT, and they are revolutionizing and taking shaking the each and every industry, and no business is without data and information. So having said that, the data and artificial intelligence is part of every world, and everyone is either directly and indirectly impacted because of that. So it's going to be stay for a long, and as well as there are a lot of more innovations and other stuff is coming in next 10 to 20 years. So now the businesses which are operating in a so far the traditional way of doing their businesses, so it's a very pressure on them in terms of moving to digital transformation and connecting to everybody to focus on customer 360 and create a value for the customer, because at the end of the day it's all about a customer, how that bring the value proposition the business can create that makes more revenues for those businesses. So there are lot of pressure on the businesses to take informed decisions quickly. So there is no longer we're taking decision and then meet and getting into a meeting and taking a lot of time to take decisions. So that's not going to work. Now this in new information is we need to take the decisions quickly, and the information is flowing across the world quickly. For example, if you some decision as some company has taken, and Twitter, if you post in a Twitter, it's going to reach entire world in a minutes or even the seconds. So we're in that information age, and it's going to be revolutionized, and the digital transformation no longer an exception or an optional for any enterprise or business, right? And also the productivity, there are a lot of stress on businesses in terms of increasing the productivity using the automation and artificial intelligence tools. And of course the data is going to be the backbone of all these um, transformations that any enterprise can take up. So some of the businesses, for example, if you think of, these are well-known examples, and you've been dealing with them in and out, right? For example, Disney and Hotstar. So what is their business model, right? How they make money? Of course, they sell the content, right? But apart from the content, what else they sell? They have a huge pile of data sitting in their enterprise, right? They do send, for example, now it's an IPL season, right? So everyone gets an alert saying that, hey, look, the match is coming in a next few hours or few minutes, right? And also the recommendations. For example, if there come any web series, and if there are any new movies are coming which are aligned to your profile and all, they do curated the information that fits into the consumer, and they do send the alerts, and they do send the um, um, messages to the each individuals, right? The same thing for Netflix. If a new movie is coming, you will be informed through different channels, and personalization that comes to you, so that the consumer is more connected to the world, right? It's no longer, if I want something, I can go back and browse curated information, and I do spend my time to by curating and by selecting movies and all. It's all automatic, and it's all Netflix knows what you want more than anybody else, right? If it's any seasonal movies are coming, if there are good content movies are coming, they automatically curate that information and send to you. And similarly, the other side, if you look at Airbnb and Uber, so what is their business model? How do they make money? So Uber doesn't have any cabs on their own, and the same thing for Airbnb as well. They don't have their own hospitality hotels, so they don't maintain their own, right? So how do they make money? So there is a big pile of data, and the artificial intelligence plays a big role in these business models, right? For example, I wanted to travel from point A to point B. Uber knows that, and they sense the cab. They just tied up with the suppliers and the demand. They just tied with these two in a proper way, and they have created a platform out of that. And they're also running huge data engineering and the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence and data is core of their business. Without that, they can't run. For example, if the Uber app being shut for a few hours, there is no business for them, because they don't know who are traveling, and who are creating who are planning to travel, and who needs um, cabs. In the similarly Airbnb, if you plan to, for example, last year I was planning some vacation to Goa and all, so I automatically get those notifications that some of the recommended stays, and some of the people who are already recommending other people to stay in those hotels, so that my vacation is comfort, right? So these the businesses are the new age businesses, I would say, and they're evolving. And it's no longer the customer comes and do the offline business and all. And data and in the AI plays a big role in these models. Okay, having said that, the marketplace is also evolving, and every company is becoming a data company. There is humongous data being generated and leveraged across available in the marketplace. For example, for example, if you take an example of Unilever makes what they makes consumer products and sell to the customers. But to make a consumer product, they tied up with they need a raw material, they need a storage, they need a suppliers, they need a third party people to make those products before coming to the end consumer. So with that, so if they plan a product to increase the capacity of thousand pieces or something, so that needs to be informed the raw material, who is providing the raw material. They need to inform, they need to take care of the raw material, whether raw material is available or not, market in the sense. And what suddenly a pandemic like COVID-19 comes, and suddenly the market sets, where do I get my raw material? How do I make those my products, right? So it's becoming very uh, what do I say, easy. And also it's very, the environment is also becoming complex without data. So data is going to play a big role on this. And the data landscape is increasing day to day. And there is no doubt, it's been we are one of the best phase of information age. And as I keep hearing, and is my and I myself, I say that data engineer is one of the sexier job so far. Okay, there is no doubt about that. Okay. So now, what is the objective of this course, right? So we've been talk about the AI revolution. We've been talked about the data, how the data is shaping the entire world, and how it's becoming core part of the every business. Though it's a manufacturer or though it's a service provider, data and AI is becoming a more and more part of every business, right? Now, who is those people who run who takes care of this data and platform? That's the data engineer, right? So there is a big portion of data engineering teams are operating, and they maintain these stacks, and they maintain this platform 24 by 7, so that the businesses can run 24 by 7 and 365 across the world, right? So now, coming to the our objective. So in this session, we are going to learn some of the data engineering concepts and the principles using Azure Data Factory and Data Bricks. And also we'll be touching upon some of the synapse related as well. And the training format going to be more in terms of the understanding the concepts, architecture, why, what, how it happens, and also hands-on exercise you'll be given using some of the real-time scenarios, so that after learning this session, you can apply these concepts and the exercises what you have done, and you can either you are part of upskilling, or you're trying to um, enter into the as a new data engineer into the market. You can apply these concepts and the hands-on in your real-time projects. Okay, so having said that, the syllabus part, which I think hope most of you know, that I don't want to go each and every part of the syllabus, but I quickly, turn upon some of the concepts and what we're trying to do using the Azure Data Factory and Data Breaks. And if you are new to, uh, this Azure Data Factory and Databricks, it's going to be exciting for you, because there are a lot of innovation is happening over there. And Azure, as you guys already know, Microsoft and Azure taking the data and AI next level. And you would have heard the recent announcement with the generative AI and chat GPT kind of stuff. So Azure is taking this data engineering to the next level using the AI as well. Okay, so with that, let me turn to um, the demo part, which is some of the concepts and the Azure Data Factory and Data Bricks, and we can take to the next. All right, hope many of you have seen this screen, the portal earlier, maybe in many other form, in many other places. But this is where this is the Azure portal, where we have the all the resources are available for us to consume and create a meaningful insights. Now, having said that, I'll just ask you. I don't know how many of you are already know the cloud concepts. Cloud computing is one of the again revolutioning in the software industry. So, and Microsoft Azure is one of the top three providers of the cloud computing services. Now, what is the cloud computing services? Cloud computing is basically making the services available over internet. For example, as you can see, some of the services are available in the Microsoft Azure Data Factory and virtual machines, storage accounts, SQL database. So these are the services available over the internet for the businesses, so that they can use these services, and they can create some meaningful insights that required for their business. Now, if you take back at 10 years ago, if you look into that, for example, if I want to make an app, or if I want to make a simple report, so what and all stuff I need? I need a database. So I need to purchase a database, and I need to purchase a license to that. And also once I purchased, I need to install myself on the either laptop or desktop, and I need to keep upgrading every time when a security patch comes or when a new release comes. I need to upgrade the software very often. Now with the cloud computing, one need not to be doing all those stuff, because all those operationalization things already will be taken care by the service provider already. You just need to focus on your business and the data that you're going to use out of this. So you need not worry about the provisioning the resources and all. The provisioning will be taken care by the service provider, which is a very good in terms of innovating quickly and making some of the products and releasing to the market. Okay, so the services in this class will be talking more about the data factory. So what is data factory? So it's a factory, right? As the name contains, it's a factory of data. You can get from the many sources and number of sources that supports, and then bring that data and do your own stuff required for your business process, and then get the insight out of that. For example, as I keep talking about Unilever, right? Unilever has partnered with thousands of partners across the world. There are some partners in US, there are some partners in UK, and there are some partners in Europe, and there are some partners in South Africa and all other countries, right? So they wanted to know how many part at a given point of time, how many partners are available, and what are the raw material available for each of those partners and all. So how do they know? Either they have to maintain in an Excel, right, and keep calling everybody, and send our email and say that, hey, can you tell me what is the this raw material is required in for me to productionize in next 2 months. Now tell me how much quantity is available. They can send an email and get the response from different countries. Maybe it takes a week or so, depending on their availability. And the same way they can do over an internet using the data factory. They can collect the data from all those suppliers and bring the data to them, and then create a simple Power BI report that can give which products are which raw materials are available, which partner, and what is their logistics and supply chain demands, and how can I can easily get those raw materials to India. So what are the right? So what are the time takes? So accordingly, he can plan his production, right? So if you take the same use case, how the data factory can help is, so it connects to the various sources. Okay, so you can bring the data from, if for example, if somebody is in US using Microsoft SQL Server, or somebody is in maintaining the raw material in an Excel, or somebody is maintaining in some other format, it can connect to the every part of the data sources and bring the data together, so that we can transform the data in a required format and do our own reporting. Okay, so now that is the main purpose of data factory. And some of you have already heard about ETL, right? So ETL is what? Extract, transform, and load. Okay, so data factory follows similar. So ingest the data that comes from the different sources at scale. Okay, and orchestrate create the pipelines, and how the data you want, and transform the data in the required format, and then finally consume the data in a the way you want to, either create a report or anything. Okay, so some of the concept in this training, we're talking about how to create a pipeline. As you can see, the factory resources are available to achieve our job, the pipelines and change data capture and data sets, data flows, and what is a Power Query, and how Power Query can help us to do some of the transformation. So we'll be creating pipelines, data sets, data flows, right, in this over the syllabus. And within the pipeline, as you guys can see, what are the different transformations, right? How the data can be copied, and what is the role of data flow, right? And what is the role of Azure functions, and the biggest chunk is data bricks. right? So this is one of the interesting topic in my view, right? So how do we use notebooks to transform our data at scale, right? And available some of the features like to orchestrate the pipelines. So how do I get metadata? What is lookup? How can I create a stored procedure and call in my pipeline? How can I do my own scripting, right? Why not? If you want to do a scripting, yes, it's available. You can simply create a Python or Python or any other script, and you can call the script over here, right? And variables and the validations and the web, finally web, right? So how do we once the pipelines triggers and how do I communicate, right? And once the pipeline, how do I debug, and how do I add a trigger, because my pipeline needs to be run in a very, for example, the data is getting refreshed every morning in US time. I need to refresh my data as well, right? So I can't live with the stale data forever, because as I mentioned, the data is changing day by day. It's very important to us also refresh our pipelines and keep the data up to date. Then only the insights make sense, right? So that's all about this course. And once you and also we'll be touching on Azure Databricks, right? Let me go to the Azure Databricks. All right. So as you can see, this is the screen of Azure Databricks, and Databricks is one of the company which started around 2010 or so, right? And it's a it's the founders are the inventors of Spark, right? So some of you already know Spark engine and Spark big data processing, right? So these guys have come up with an innovative way in terms of maintaining the entire Spark engine available for the business community. So how the big data you're going to process with the Spark engine, and what are the cluster, right? What is the cluster? What is the compute? And what is the databases you can create, and the tables, and also the compute cluster, right? What the different styles of cluster, how do you create a compute, and how do you attach a cluster to a compute query so that it can execute, right? And also you can create workflows as well. Once the notebooks are created, how I can create a workflow so that it can execute it automatically. Okay. And other side, the workspace, right? So what are the difference between shade and users, right? For example, if I see, how do I create a notebook, right? So what the language I'm going to use, am I going to use Python, or I'm going to use SQL, or I'm going to use Scala, or going to use R? So you can create any of these languages to create the script, to create the notebook, and then attach a cluster to run the notebook, and then the notebook is going to execute. But at the time of creating the notebook, you might not need a cluster at immediately, but in order to run any commands here, you need a cluster to attach to it. So all this stuff we are going to discuss. So in a way, the Azure Data Factory helps to bring the data, connect the data from different sources, and do the some transformations. And Azure Data Bricks helps to do those transformations at scale in terms of big data and all, takes care. And finally, the data is going to reside either of your Azure Data Lake, or Azure Data Azure SQL database, right? That is where the data analysts and the data scientists can connect to those data sets and they can create reports out of that. So that is the end-to-end flow we are going to cover out of this session. So it's going to be the entire syllabus is, I believe, the already published to you. Okay, go through that, go to that, and if you have any questions, we can take it up. Okay, any questions, guys, so far?
No, no questions.
Good. Anybody else?
Sir, are you covering the Python basics and SQL basics also? No?
Yeah, SQL basics are part of the syllabus,
Okay.
but Python is not part of this scope.
Okay.
Are we not dealing with the PySpark in the Databricks? Like,
We are. So as I mentioned, right? So um, um, the entire Databricks is based on the PySpark. Okay, so we'll be touching upon the concept of Spark and how the Spark internals works, what is the architecture, and then little bit on PySpark. Okay, and mostly we'll be doing the scripting and all using the SQL. PySQL we can use that.
okay, thank
Any more questions? Okay, so quickly on the course content as well, since we have some few minutes left. So we'll be doing on the data factory. We'll be touching upon concepts and data factory. So how do we create a free account for each one of you and do the hands-on the real-time scenarios, and then we'll be teaching the Azure Data Factory, storage accounts, and how to work with the pipelines. And before getting into pipelines, what are the different concepts available? What is linked service? What is data source? Right? What is sync? What is source? And what are the different integration runtimes available? And how do I work with CSV files? I have a CSV file. How do I bring to the cloud? And how do I generate a report? Right? How do I work with multiple files? And more importantly, the SQL database, and finally where I'm going to land my data. So I have got so much of data, and after doing transformation, where I'm going to land my data so that it can available for others to consume, right? So and also some of the concepts in terms of key values. How do I ensure the when I'm connecting with different sources, I don't want to maintain an Excel or somewhere the username passwords to connect to them, right? So how do I manage those in a secured way, right? And alerts, if something, in my pipeline, if something goes wrong and something is not working as expected, how do I get notified? And we'll be discussing about logic apps and also the change data capture. So it's not some data I got the data and some data got changed again from my source. So how do I know that data got changed, and how do I bring the only changed data to my cloud? right? Because I don't want to bring the entire data every time. I wanted to just get the change data happen over a period of time. Only the change data I want to uh, bring to my cloud. So how do I do that? And then how do I trigger it? So my pipeline, because of business needs, it has to be run in certain period, certain interval. So how do I schedule those pipelines to run in a different, in a specified interval? And moreover, we will be discussing the dependencies, right? How do I create a dependence? For example, I want to read 10 files. So the first file completes, I wanted to move to second files. So if there are any issues with the first file, I don't want to go and process my second file. So these kind of business scenarios, real-time scenarios will be covered in the pipeline stuff. And then the data flows available, the ready-made, right? The no code, low code, right? I don't want to write for everything. I'm not a scripting guy. Okay, no worries. So the ready-made data flow is available. So you can, using this data flow, you can sort the data, you can remove the duplicates, and you can create the joins between the two data sets, and you can get the required output the way as per your requirement. And that can be done through data flows. There are plenty of templates available, so that they're readily available, so that you can use as a drag and drop manner. Okay. And finally, again, somebody asked, right? So the PySpark, right? So as I showed you the Databricks architecture and the cluster, what is the cluster, what are the different types available, and the notebook options available for a development, and how do we attach those notebooks, how do we clone, move, and the cells within the notebook, right? All this stuff been covered in this. And as you can see, there is a portion for PySpark as well. So how do we route different file types? As you know, there are types like open technology file types like Parquet, ORC, and Avro files, right? So what is the difference between these files and the normal CSV file, right? Why do we use those things? And finally, how do we upload that data directly to Databricks itself? Right? And this PySpark is going to be major one, and you will learn the entire things about PySpark and the key features available by Spark SQL, streaming, and all the stuff. So how do you create RDD? What is RDD? Why do you need RDD? Right? What is the concept of RDD? And how do we optimize the process? So all this stuff going to be discussed. Anything else? So I have lost 5 minutes. If you guys have any questions, we can take it up.
Sir, I have a request.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Uh, Please explain me how to create Databricks community, sir.
Sure. It's part of uh, syllabus. We'll be covering that both in ADF and as well as Databricks. We'll be creating a free account for everyone. Okay.
Actually, we know how to create the data factory and everything, but I don't know how to create a Databricks community only, sir.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be part of that. So when you sign up, right? Yeah, there is a option to select community edition only.
Oh, okay.
Okay, when you click
Okay.
on that community edition, it will take you to the community edition.
When I'm going into the portal, it's asking for Microsoft Azure and web series, Google Cloud.
So if you go down, there is a with small letters it's written. Okay, so community.
Okay. Get
Yeah,
started with community edition.
right. So if you click on that community edition, it takes you to the community edition.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
So we will also Synops also covered here.
Right, right. Synapse is a kind of a basics we'll be covering as a complementary, so that the objective is to cover and the entire landscape from the data from the source to target.
Okay.
Right. So that after this course you will be able to, if you're getting, if you're either in your career you're upskilling or you're getting a new role or you are entering as a data engineer, so that it's not a new thing for you and you can do this as an this end-to-end flow. Of course, depending on project, depending on other stuff, it differs, but at least this end-to-end data, end-to-end flow of how the data comes from different sources to target, and what are different tools and options and technologies are available to cover this entire landscape.
One more thing. So, is it really required T-SQL knowledge?
Yes, SQL basics are required. Or if you're good at Python, if you're able to manage in Python, that's a good. But even for the basics of SQL, I would suggest you have a as a prerequisite, do a SQL basics, because that's going to help you to query the SQL database and all. Right. Let's say you bought the data from different sources and you put it into the database. Now the other person who is a data scientist, he asks you, hey, can you give me the data, for example, the top 10 vendors or the top 10 suppliers in each region, right? So how do you do that? You need to write a SQL query
Yes.
to get that,
Yes.
right? Because see, the ADF and ADB helps you to get the data and transform in a required way, but it didn't give you what are the required format you want it, right? For that you need to write a SQL query.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the object.
Okay. Thank you.
Any last one or two questions, I can take it up. All right, thank you guys, and looking forward to further sessions.